"Sir, step outside and present identification. Failure to comply will result in arrest." I froze mid-sip of my coffee. There were 3 of them standing on my lawn at 7:12 a.m. matching navy polos, clipboards, laminated badges dangling like props from a low-budget TV show. One woman even had a body cam clipped to her chest, as if she were filming a pilot episode nobody wanted to see. Their leader, a rigid, 50-something woman with a helmet-stiff bob haircut and the posture of someone who has spent decades being personally offended by trampoline noise, raised her hand like she was coordinating a raid. "This is your final warning, Mr. Hurst," she announced. "You violate Maple Creek Estates Covenant Statutes 3, 4, 4, 2, and 8, 9b. Produce identification and your HOA membership card, or we will proceed with the citizen's arrest." I stared at her, barefoot on my porch, flannel pajama pants, holding a mug that said "World's Okayest Neighbor." "Couple problems with that," I said slowly. 1, I'm not in your HOA, and 2, you are the HOA. You can't arrest anybody. Behind her, a middle-aged guy with a dad bod and unnecessary sunglasses shifted nervously, clutching a manila folder labeled evidence. The woman's nostrils flared. "My name is Denise Corbett," she snapped. "I am president of the Maple Creek Estates Homeowners Association, and under our Community Security Initiative, we are fully empowered to detain non-compliant residents pending law enforcement arrival." I blinked, then looked past them at the weathered wooden sign at the end of my street. "Welcome to Old Hickory Lane, unincorporated county road. No HOA." I took another sip of coffee. "Yeah," I murmured. "This should be good." 3 months earlier, I'd moved into my slightly crooked little ranch house at the dead end of Old Hickory Lane. I was 34, worked from home as a software engineer, preferred peace to chaos, and believed neighbors were best. Appreciated at a polite wave range. My hobbies included brewing overcomplicated pour-over coffee and trying desperately not to kill a lemon tree on my back patio. The place had charm, original hardwood, a tiny fireplace, and a yard that backed up to a creek. But it had one magical sentence in the listing that sang to my soul: "Not subject to HOA." Old Hickory Lane was the lone survivor of whatever rural grid existed before Maple Creek Estates paved over the area in cul-de-sacs and identical mailboxes. Maple Creek now wrapped around my little road on 3 sides, like a decorative noose made of beige stucco and vinyl siding. On moving day, my real estate agent pointed toward the Maple Creek entrance with its brick pillars and manicured shrubs. "That," she'd said, "is the kingdom of the HOA, but this stretch these for houses on Old Hickory is county jurisdiction. No dues, no committees, no architectural reviews. You want to paint your house purple? Go wild." I grinned. "I won't, but it's nice to know I could." I met the HOA president 2 weeks later. She showed up while I was unloading groceries, striding down from the Maple Creek gate like an IRS audit in human form. Tall, sharp features, joggers that somehow looked judgmental. This was Denise Corbett, ruler of Maple Creek, enforcer of bylaws. She didn't introduce herself so much as broadcast her authority. "I'm Denise, Maple Creek HOA president. I like to know everyone in the community," she said, with the tone of someone who meant under my command. Her eyes scanned my house, my car, my recycling bin like a TSA scanner with a grudge. "You're the new owner of..." "Ah, the exception parcel, I guess." "Yeah," I replied. "Old Hickory. Not in the HOA." Her smile folded in half. "Well, technically," she said, "you're adjacent to Maple Creek, and your property affects our community standards. We should talk about expectations." "My expectation," I said, lifting a bag of groceries, "is that I mow my lawn, don't cause problems, and you people leave me alone." The smile vanished. Then, for a moment, a flashed height, obsessive fury. "We'll see," she said. That was the quiet beginning of the war I never asked to be drafted into. The first note appeared on my door like a parking ticket. Notice of violation. Maple Creek Estates. HOA property, 11 Old Hickory Lane. Adjacency. Parcel violation. Non-regulation mailbox section 2.3. Fine. $75 due in 10 days. I read it twice, then laughed. Maple Creek's regulation. Mailboxes were these black, Fox Victorian monstrosities that looked like they expected handwritten letters from the 1800s. Mine was a standard USPS approved box. I crumpled the notice and tossed it. 3 days later, a second letter arrived, this time in my actual federal mailbox, which was illegal for them to use. As a property impacting Maple Creek sightlines, you are subject to compliance expectations regardless of membership status. I emailed back a scanned copy of my deed, the county plat, everything confirming Old Hickory parcels had never been, could never be, HOA regulated. They didn't respond. Instead, the violations escalated. A trash can visibility warning because my bin stayed at the curb 10 minutes past pickup. A citation for non-approved exterior lighting because I hung 2 warm white bulbs on my patio. One night around PM, I noticed a flash outside. I peeked through the curtain and saw Denise in the dark, measuring my grass height with the tape measure. I stepped onto the porch. "Can I help you?" She jumped, then straightened. "Routine community inspection. Your yard is visible from the Maple Creek common areas. It must meet standards." A beat. "It barely meets my standards." And again, I said, "Not in the HOA." Then it got worse. One Saturday, my friend Jonah parked on the street while we worked on a bookshelf. 20 minutes later, a tow truck rolled up with an HOA officer in a polo, claiming Jonah's car was illegally parked in a private subdivision. "This is a county road," I said. "I checked before I bought the place." The tow driver shrugged and left. The HOA guy muttered, "We'll see what the board says," and retreated. Then came the sign. A bright yellow stake jammed into my lawn. "This property is under HOA review, potential community nuisance." I yanked it out and tossed it in the garage. By then, the rumors had begun. A weary Maple Creek neighbor named Rosa quietly pulled me aside one evening as I walked my dog. "They're saying you're a problem resident," she whispered. "Denise told people you refused to pay dues, and you threatened her." I laughed at her, I said. Rosa shrugged. "Same thing in HOA language." After that, I kept my front camera on, saved every email, texted a lawyer friend, casual questions about HOA jurisdiction. Then one morning, I saw Denise and 2 board members in the cul-de-sac studying a printout of my property lines, like they were planning a military strike. I didn't know they'd already formalized their community security initiative. The ID or arrest stunt wasn't random. It was step 9 in Denise's spiral. They'd ordered polos embroidered with Maple Creek security in gold thread. Badges that looked official from 10 feet away if you didn't read the tiny neighborhood safety volunteer. Denise rebranded the HOA watch group into a security task force. It made her feel powerful, made gullible neighbors feel protected, made the rest of us uneasy. The morning they confronted me, I let them monologue. Denise listed my violations. Unapproved mailbox, visible trash can, unsanctioned exterior lighting, failure to register as an adjacency parcel, residentialist. Guy kept filming like he expected a dramatic takedown. Then I spoke calmly. "Just to be super clear on video, I am not, and have never been, a member of the Maple Creek HOA. You have no authority over me. You are trespassing. Please leave." Denise's jaw twitched. "You are within the Maple Creek sphere of influence," she said. "Your presence directly impacts our property values. You are being non-compliant and antagonistic. Under our bylaws, we can detain." I held up my phone. "Denise, I checked with the county and an attorney. You lay one finger on me, and this stops being HOA nonsense and starts being criminal. I'm asking you, on camera, to leave my property." There was a tense silence. Denise angled herself toward the camera. "Mr. Hurst is becoming aggressive," she announced loudly, voice trembling theatrically. "We may need law enforcement." She pulled out her phone and dialed 911. I faintly heard, "What's your emergency?" Denise slipped into full performance mode. "Yes, hi. I'm the HOA security lead for Maple Creek Estates. We have a resident here who's been threatening board members and is refusing to leave a common property. He appears hostile. We're concerned he may escalate. Please send someone quickly." My eyebrows shot up. "You just lied to 911. Denise cupped her hand over the phone and hissed. "You are escalating. You're on my front porch," I said. "And your common property is literally my deeded land." But the damage was done. 10 minutes later, the street lit up with flashing blue and red. Real patrol cars this time. Real badges. Real authority. Rosa stood behind her mailbox, watching with a worried expression. Other Maple Creek residents peeked through blinds, curtains, trembling with morbid curiosity. I lifted my hand slightly as the officers approached. "Morning," I said calmly. "You're going to want the camera footage." Denise stepped forward as she had summoned them. "Officers, thank goodness. We've had repeated issues with this man. He refuses to comply with HOA regulations. He's been hostile and threatening, and now he's interfering with our security team." "Ma'am," the taller officer interrupted, "whose property is this?" Denise blinked. "Well, it's community adjacent." But the second officer, a woman, glanced at the mailbox. "The house number?" "The Old Hickory Lane sign." Her eyebrows rose. "I know this strip," she said. "Old Hickory, unincorporated, not in the HOA." I almost felt bad for Denise as both officers slowly turned to face her. "Almost." "Sir?" the taller cop asked me. "You got documentation?" "Oh, absolutely," I said, opening a folder on my phone labeled, in giant capital letters, "Not in the HOA." I showed them the plat map, the deed, and the county's email confirmation. Meanwhile, my front camera had captured every second of the morning circus. "And you said he threatened you?" the officer asked Denise, his eyebrow lifting in a way that promised problems. Denise stalled. He intimidated the board. He was aggressive. He refused to show ID." The officer looked utterly unimpressed. "Refusing HOA rules on property not under your jurisdiction is not a crime, ma'am. Making misleading statements to 911 is." The word misleading hit like a warning shot, and then I made the choice that changed everything. I didn't let this blow over. I filed a formal complaint with the police department. Camera footage, emails, and the audio of Denise's dramatic, threatening resident performance. I copied the county attorney and attached the plat map. Officer Perez, the taller officer, quietly stuck a post-it on the file that read Maple Creek HOA again with a little rolling eyes emoji. Apparently, I wasn't their first adventure. Within a week, Denise received a letter from the county. "We have received reports of individuals representing themselves as Maple Creek Security attempting to detain residents and misrepresent property boundaries." It went on to outline possible charges: impersonating law enforcement, trespassing, misuse of 911. Denise's laminated empire began to crumble. At the next HOA meeting, under buzzing fluorescent lights and a framed painting of generic trees, residents were furious. "You told us those Old Hickory people were delinquent members." One man snapped. "We've been paying extra for security," a woman said sharply. "And you spent the money on matching shirts and badges?" "My husband got questioned walking our own dog last week," someone else added. Rosa, normally quiet, stood. "You lied to the police about our neighbor. That's not security. That's harassment." Denise tried to regain control. "We cannot expect property values to remain stable if some people ignore community standards. Our bylaws clearly state." A resident held up a printout. "County Attorney's Office says your bylaws stop where Maple Creek's recorded plat stops. Old Hickory isn't included." Board members shifted in their seats, suddenly fascinated by their clipboards. Then came the fatal blow. The HOA's insurer got involved and sent a letter. "Any activities resembling law enforcement, including detainment or citizens' arrests under HOA authority, are not covered by your policy. Continued incidents may result in cancellation of coverage." Funny how quickly people stop caring about sightlines when the words cancellation of coverage appear. The board, terrified for their personal liability, voted narrowly to suspend Denise's security task force. Denise voted no, but the motion passed. I learned much of this from Rosa and Officer Perez, who stopped by one afternoon. Thought you'd want to know, Perez said, leaning on his squad car. County Attorney's Office is taking a closer look at Maple Creek. I felt something loosen inside my chest, relief, and if I'm honest, a pinch of petty satisfaction. Good, I said. Maybe they'll stop measuring my grass at midnight. Perez chuckled. Oh, you haven't seen the best part yet. The best part arrived 2 months later, a public hearing. The county, tired of Maple Creek's creative interpretations of authority, scheduled an official review. Technically, it was about encroaching the public right-of-way. In reality, it was the downfall of Denise. The hearing room was packed. Maple Creek residents, Old Hickory holdouts, county staff, a reporter hungry for a HOA Gone Wild headline. I sat near the back with Rosa T the front. Denise sat with 2 board members, a stack of binders in front of her like riot shields. She wore her best blazer and the wounded expression of a reality show contestant wronged by the judges. The county Nightmares, the complaints. Unauthorized signage, harassment of non-HOA residents. Misrepresentation to emergency services. Questionable spending on security equipment. Then he projected the slide that destroyed my security camera footage. There was Denise, on my porch, declaring her authority. There she was claiming my land as common property. There she was performing her Oscar-worthy 911 call. Audio played. Yes. Hi, I'm the HOA security lead for Maple Creek Estates. The room went still. Someone in the back released a low whistle. For the record, the attorney said, the property in question is a privately owned parcel 1407B, never annexed into Maple Creek. The HOA president had been informed of this in writing. He let it linger, then added dryly, also, HOA security lead is not a recognized law enforcement position. Ripple of laughter. Denise, face flushed crimson, leaned in. We acted in good faith. The resident was aggressive. We felt unsafe. Unsafe? How? Asked a county commissioner. By him standing barefoot in pajamas, holding a coffee mug. More laughter. Behind me, someone murmured, I'd vote for the coffee guy before I'd vote for this woman. The county's findings were devastating in their politeness. Maple Creek HOA was ordered to stop all enforcement outside its boundaries, remove signage claiming authority over Old Hickory Lane, complete training the emergency services, misuse reimburse, adjacency fees. Previously charged. Then came the knockout punch in reviewing financial records. The attorney said, we found HOA dues were used for personal purchases, including a high-end SUV titled in Ms. Corbett's name, listed as a compliance vehicle. The room erupted. My pool fees bought your leather seats? A man shouted. Board members stared at the floor like it might swallow them. The commissioner cleared her throat. Given these findings, we recommend a new leadership election. Ms. Corbett, we strongly suggest you step down. Denise shot to her feet. You can't. This is a smear campaign. I kept this community safe. Without standards, people like him, she jabbed a finger at me, will drag down property values. Every head turned toward me. I gave a small wave. The commissioner smiled gently. For what it's worth, ma'am, Old Hickory parcels have appreciated slightly more than Maple Creek's in the last 5 years. Possibly because they don't have to deal with all this. Even the court reporter smirked. Denise's reign ended not with grandeur, but with a vote she couldn't manipulate. Furious residents and looming lawsuits forced an emergency election. She lost badly. Her final act was refusing to sign the resignation form for 10 minutes. Muttering about standards and ingrates, the county didn't press criminal charges, but they did issue a $5,000 fine for misuse of 911 and trespassing. She was barred from HOA leadership for 10 years, banned from representing any community group, and assigned a conflict resolution course. She also had to reimburse the HOA for the compliance SUV sold at a loss. When the commissioner read the penalties, Denise went white, then red, then a mottled shade of indignant purple. 5,000. She gasped. For trying to protect property values? For lying to emergency services and trespassing, the commissioner corrected. Consider yourself lucky this isn't criminal. Denise stood so abruptly her chair screeched. This is outrageous. She snapped. You'll all regret this when Thenabarad collapses. Mark my words. She grabbed her blazer, stormed toward the door, then spun for one last dramatic declaration. I gave 8 years to that community. 8 years. And you repay me with fines and humiliation? The commissioner remained unbothered. The hearing is adjourned. Miss Corbett, you have 30 days to pay your fine and complete the required coursework. The bailiff will provide your paperwork. Denise stood frozen a moment, trembling in fury, then turned and stalked out. The heavy door slammed behind her, echoing through the silent room like the final punctuation mark on her empire's collapse.